We will be discussing speech and language disorders, which can also be referred to as communicative disorders.
The next 5 slides, I will be discussing strategies for teachers that could help students with a speech or language disorder in the classroom. The first strategy is how a teacher should speak with the student. When a student with a communication disorder is speaking to the teacher needs to be a great listener to best interpret what the student is saying. It may be difficult for the teacher to understand the student. The teacher can repeat to the student what he or she thinks is being said and then look for verbal or nonverbal cues to make sure the student was heard correctly. The teacher should not ignore the student when the student is speaking and should not rush the student while he or she is speaking. Although it might be tempting to help the student finish their sentence, the teacher must be patient and let the student finish. The next strategy is how the teacher should set up the classroom. The classroom environment should be a safe and comfortable place for all the students. The teacher should encourage all their students in the classroom to accept and be kind to students who have speech or language disorders. Students with communication disorders should be given the same opportunities to participate in the classroom as the other students. A student with a communication impairment may feel nervous or anxious. The teacher should help the student practice what they might say during discussions to ease their anxiety. The third strategy I will be discussing is the student's assigned seat. Students who have communication disorders should be set in a location where it is most beneficial for the learning of the student in the classroom. The student should be set where classroom instruction is given and where the student can be easily assisted. The teacher should monitor the student's understanding of the lessons to make sure the student is on the same page as the rest of the class. The next strategy is helping a student with a speech or language disorder expand on their vocabulary. Students with communication disorders may struggle with new vocab. The teacher should provide the student with additional help in building vocab strategies. The teacher should encourage the student to still use the vocab he or she already knows, but help with the process of adding on new vocab. The last strategy is helping the student with his or her communication skills outside of the classroom. The teacher should help the child practice communication skills outside of the classroom, such as field trips, school playground, or the lunchroom. These experiences outside of a formal setting like the classroom helps a student with communication impairments to have opportunities that will be similar to the real world.
Next, we will go over 5 essential things a teacher must know about communicative disorders to help them teach in the most efficient way. There are varying degrees of this disorder. The degree of the disorder can affect a child's health and development, which means that it can affect a child's ability to communicate and learn, along with their ability to establish and maintain different types of relationships. It is important for teachers to know this so they can know that a child may struggle in one or more of these areas. Many communicative delays do not become noticeable until school age, and it is not uncommon for a delay to go undiagnosed until this age due to the assumption of child language development, which is why it is important, especially for early age teachers, to be on the lookout for all the different warning signs. Speech and language disabilities typically go hand in hand with learning and cognitive disabilities. The co-occurrence is around 96%. It is important for teachers to know this so they can understand that a child with communicative disorders has a much higher chance of struggling academically, and they may need to be provided interventions in multiple areas. There are many different areas in a communicative disability. Speech impairments can be broken up into articulation, fluency, or voice problems. Language disabilities can be broken up into syntax, semantics, or pragmatic problems. It is important for teachers to understand that every child with a communicative disability could struggle in different areas and they need to be addressed differently. There is a difference between a language disorder and an ESL student. An ESL student may appear as though they have a language delay, but chances are they just need more time to learn the second language in an academic and conversational aspect. Just as there is a difference between different dialects and a speech disorder, there are multiple dialects of English based on different factors such as regional and social differences. It is important for teachers to know and be able to distinguish the difference between ESL delay and different dialects of a language so they do not refer a child for intervention who does not need it, or alternatively, they misreferring a child who does need intervention. To better teach students with speech and language disabilities, it is important to understand different aspects of the disorders. As mentioned before, a language disorder can be broken up into syntax, semantics, or pragmatic problems. Syntax is the rule system for a language, also known as grammar. Semantics is the intent and meaning, such as knowing how destination and last stop both imply the same thing. And pragmatics is the social application of language, such as knowing what it means when someone asks, "Can you pass the ketchup?" An example of a language disorder is aphasia. Language disorders can also be broken up into receptive and expressive language problems. Receptive language has to do with the understanding of spoken and written word, while expressive has to do with expressing ideas orally or in written word. Some children may have one or both affected.
Speech disorders also can be broken up into different areas. First, articulation, which is a physical problem involved in producing speech sounds. An example would be a child who uses substitution and says wabbit, not rabbit. Next is fluency, which is a problem with the flow of speech sounds, such as stuttering. And finally, voice disorders, which has to do with the way one's voice sounds, such as hypernasality.